Today on Nancy Drew Book Reviews, we're discussing Nancy Drew Files number 27, first published in September 1988. Most Likely to Die is about Nancy and her friends attending a high school reunion party. They purposely avoid mentioning what year it is, but based on the information, I'm guessing everybody is in their early 20s. The following characters attend the party. Wendy Harriman, the self-centered cheerleader that no one likes. She's hosting the party at her beach house. Patrick Emmons, the captain of the football team, who is currently attending an Ivy League university. Monica Beckwith, the class actress who now has a successful career in New York. Celia Quaid, who used to be a fat girl. She has lost 60 pounds since high school and now looks gorgeous. Judd Reese, the greaser who rode a motorcycle and wore a leather jacket. Don Cameron, Nancy's old boyfriend, and Don Cameron! Don Cameron was last seen in the 1960 rewrite of Nancy Drew number 3, The Bungalow Mystery. He was Nancy's prom date, and he invites her to a barbecue in that book. All in all, he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But the last 28 years have been hard on Don. He now realizes that letting Nancy go was the biggest mistake of his life, and he wants to get back together with her. Since Nancy is now dating Ned, she finds the entire situation incredibly awkward, and she tries to avoid him. The party turns into a mystery. When Patrick lights the grill, he almost gets killed because somebody switched the lighter fluid with gasoline. Not long after, Wendy's bedroom is ransacked. Amid the destruction is a death threat, and cheerleader Barbie with a butcher knife stuck inside of her. No! Not cheerleader Barbie! What did she ever do to you, evil high school culprit? The author kicks Nancy's father and Hannah Gruen out of the house for the rest of the book, then we begin. The investigation is a tad formulaic in that everybody gets exactly one chapter to be interesting, after which they're completely irrelevant to the plot. We start with Wendy. The culprit has now attacked her home in River Heights. The culprit stole the CD player, the tuner, stereo, TV, and VCR. Oh no! Now Wendy won't be able to watch her videotapes while listening to CDs. The culprit left behind a vandalized high school yearbook with drawings all over the pictures and nasty captions like, "Most likely to die." Hey, that would make a great book title. Some of the nasty notes refer to the high school play, so Nancy goes to Monica, the actress. When Nancy opens the front door, Monica says, "Now I've got you right where I want you," laughs like a maniac, then shoots someone. Then Monica says, "Now I've got you right where I want you," laughs like a maniac, then shoots someone. Then Monica says, "Now I've got you." Oh, you get the point. She's working on an audition for a soap opera. Monica's home is ransacked while she's speaking with Nancy, so she must be innocent. Nancy picks up Bess and they go to Celia Quaid's. Bess has plot-related allergies, so the girls leave Celia's house for half an hour and the culprit strikes again. Specifically, the culprit saws Celia's ladder in half, causing her to fall off and nearly die. The culprit also left behind a note saying she is the same fat loser she's always been. I should mention that all of these notes are cut out of newspapers, so no one can identify the handwriting. Judd is the next suspect. He works at an auto garage next to a loud music store. Judd admits he has a motive against Wendy, which is a dumb thing to tell a detective who's investigating you. He gets offended that Nancy suspects him, and he's so upset that he refuses to give Nancy his alibi. Also a dumb thing to tell a detective who's investigating you. Nancy sees cut-up newspapers in his trash can, but she doesn't get a chance to examine them. The next suspect is Patrick Emmons, because his car was in Judd's repair shop. That's a really tenuous reason to suspect someone, Nancy. The two of them discuss the case, and Patrick suggests that Don Cameron is the culprit. After all, Don is outside right now, climbing into Nancy's car, and what? Nancy confronts Don, who is leaving a note for her. Don makes his final effort to rekindle his relationship with Nancy. And since he's a suspect, Nancy agrees to talk with him. Instead of, talking right then and there, the two of them set a date. Nancy thinks for a moment, and she decides the best place to question Dawn is an amusement park. What? Naturally, Ned shows up for a surprise boyfriend visit just before Dawn arrives for the date. Drama? Nancy and Dawn go to the amusement park, which ends up being a stupid idea. I could have told you that. Because it's too loud to talk. The only quiet place is the Tunnel of Love. Awkward. Before Dawn can say anything, Nancy accuses him of being the culprit. He gets upset, Nancy falls into the water, Dawn dives in after her, and they both realize they've been complete idiots about each other. Dawn reverts to his original nice guy personality, and he stops trying to get back together with Nancy. He gives Nancy a solid alibi, and they agree to be just friends. Nancy and Dawn drive back to her house, where an angry Ned is waiting for them. More relationship drama ensues as Ned gets ready to punch Dawn in the face, but he calms down when he hears the whole story. There's also a nice scene of Nancy and Ned working things out. Of course, 3 books later, Ned's temper reappears and he gets arrested for punching someone in the stomach, but it's still a nice scene. In the middle of the night, Nancy is woken up by a desperate Wendy. The culprit has been harassing her with creepy phone calls. Wendy, have you tried, unplugging the phone? Rock music plays in the background of the phone calls, and Nancy suspects it's from the music store near Judd. Even though it's 2 a.m, Nancy wakes up her friends and forces them to go with her to the car garage, where they find Judd's bloody, unconscious body. Wendy is too afraid to go home now, so she sleeps over at Nancy's house. Hey, why not Ned's house? With all the relationship drama in this book, having the attractive cheerleader sleep in Ned's house would not be out of place. Nancy is later woken up by another phone call, this one from Patrick. Someone is lurking outside of his house and they're breaking in and he gets attacked by a cliffhanger before he can finish the call. Nancy rushes to Patrick's house where his parents spill the beans. Patrick is not a superstar success like he said at his high school reunion. He was cut from the football team, kicked out of college for stealing, and now he lives with his parents. Ouch. Nancy correctly deduces that Patrick is the culprit. He's targeting all of the students whose lives are better than his. Well, let's see. That narrows down the revenge list to everyone. Presumably, Patrick lured Nancy out of the house so he could get at Wendy. With fear mounting, Nancy returns to her home, where Wendy is tied up with clothesline. Patrick is there with a gun. He explodes with anger and monologues about his motive. Then he ties the girls up and leaves to burn the house down. Patrick did a bad job of tying Nancy up because he was holding a gun at the time, so Nancy breaks out. When she unties Wendy's legs, Patrick reappears. Nancy and Wendy run upstairs as Patrick fires twice. He gives chase, but Nancy knocks him out with an unexpected scissors kick to the chin. Because, football players aren't used to head injuries. The next day, Nancy has everyone come over to her house so she can explain the details of the case. Wendy realizes how horrible and selfish she has been, and she decides to turn her life around. Celia is the first to forgive her. The end. Post-book follow-up. This is a very good book. The author's attention to detail is fantastic. There are hardly any problems with the story, and by the time you're done with Chapter 2, you've encountered pretty much everything which will become a plot point later on. What impressed me the most were the small details that indicate the story takes place near the end of September, aka the exact same time the book was published. Timing the story to match the publication date is pretty classy, even if it's completely unnecessary. The romance drama was all well done, and it was nice to see Dawn Cameron return to the Nancy Drew universe. I admit the investigation is a bit formulaic, but since it was generally well done and there were minor variations in the investigation, I can overlook it. Speaking of the book structure, I like how the book separates the revelation of the culprit, the escape from the culprit, and the explanation of how the crimes were committed. These things all happen in separate chapters, and it is much better than a rushed ending that tries to do all three things at once. I give Nancy Drew Files number 27, Most Likely to Die, a 10 out of 10.